Hey everyone, ready for something really interesting?
Always.
Today we're going to dive deep into Islamic jurisprudence.
Oh, cool.
Specifically, the teachings of Imam Malik.
Okay.
And this is going to be really fascinating because we're going to be looking at the Muwatta,
Right.
which is like a guide to life.
Yeah.
It covers like everything from daily rituals to really complex like financial matters,
Yeah.
all rooted in Islamic principles.
Yeah, it's amazing how much wisdom is packed into this text. It's like centuries old.
Yeah, it's from the 8th century.
Wow.
And it's not just about like the what to do, but it's also about the why.
Exactly.
So we get a much deeper understanding
Yeah.
of the reasoning behind these
It's
practices,
significance.
behind them. So we're not going to get bogged down in like every single detail.
Right.
We're going to try to extract those key takeaways
Oh.
and really show how Imam Malik's teachings are still relevant today, like even centuries later.
I think people will be surprised by how much is still relevant.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right in and
Oh.
start with this concept of purity.
Okay.
The Muwatta dedicates a lot of time to wudu,
Right.
which is the ritual ablution that's done before prayer. But before we even get into the steps and everything, what's the bigger idea here?
Well, the emphasis on wudu really shows us how important it is to approach the divine with a sense of cleanliness,
Okay.
both physical and spiritual. So it's about preparing ourselves for prayer,
I like that.
both inwardly and outwardly.
Preparing, it's not just about going through the motions.
Right.
It's about setting an intention.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's some really interesting nuances in the Muwatta that talk about this idea of intention.
Okay.
For example, there's a discussion about if it's okay to use a single handful of water
Oh, wow.
for washing both the mouth and the nose during wudu.
Interesting. So even in something that specific,
Yeah.
there's room for interpretation
Exactly.
and understanding the spirit of the practice.
Yeah. And Imam Malik, based on his understanding of the Prophet's teachings, he allowed for this flexibility.
Okay.
And it shows that the focus is on the essence of purification,
Right.
not necessarily rigid adherence to every tiny little detail.
Right. I remember a hadith that really kind of emphasizes that, like how seriously we should take these rituals.
Oh, yeah.
Aisha, the Prophet's wife, narrated the Prophet saying, "Woe to the heels in the fire."
Wow.
It's a really powerful reminder to pay attention to even the small details.
It is,
Like
yeah.
properly washing our heels during wudu.
Yeah.
It's about thoroughness and sincerity
Yes.
in fulfilling those obligations,
Yeah.
even in the smallest of actions.
Mm-hmm.
And, speaking of details that are kind of fascinating,
Okay.
the Muwatta mentions that men and women performing wudu together
Oh, wow.
was permissible during the time of the Prophet.
Yes, and that really reflects the communal nature of worship in early Islam and the social norms of the time.
Okay.
So it's a reminder that these practices can evolve, in the context of different cultures and societies.
Right, because things change and we have to adapt.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've established that purity is key
Right.
before we engage in prayer.
Yes.
Now let's talk about prayer itself, Salah,
Okay.
a cornerstone of Islamic practice.
Yes.
And the Muwatta goes deep into the significance of the 5 daily prayers and their
Mhm.
specific timings.
Yeah, the 5 daily prayers really act as a constant rhythm
Okay.
in a Muslim's life,
Yeah.
connecting us to the divine throughout the day.
Okay.
And each prayer is associated with a particular time,
Mhm.
and it kind of symbolizes the ebb and flow of life and
Yeah.
the ever-present nature of the Creator.
It's like a constant reminder
Exactly.
throughout the day.
Yeah.
And to illustrate those timings,
Yeah.
there's a great hadith where the Prophet demonstrates the time for Sabyan dawn prayer using the varying degrees of light between 2 mornings.
I love that hadith.
It's such a practical,
Yeah.
relatable way to explain a concept.
Yeah.
Just using everyday observations.
It's like the Prophet was saying, look, you don't need a fancy clock. Just observe the world around you.
Exactly.
Right.
So simple.
Yeah.
And once you're in that prayer, the Muwatta stresses the importance of calmness and focus.
Yes.
There's a beautiful hadith that says, when the iqama is called for prayer, do not come to it running, but come with calmness. You are in prayer as long as your aim is the prayer.
I love that hadith.
It's about cultivating that inner state
It is.
of presence and mindfulness.
Yeah.
It's not just the physical motions.
Right.
What about those moments, though?
Yeah.
When our minds wander during prayer.
Of course.
What guidance does the Muwatta offer for those times of forgetfulness?
Right. Well, Imam Malik taught that if someone is unsure if they've performed a prayer correctly, it's better to repeat it out of caution.
So it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to make sure it's done properly.
Yeah, and it's that sense of wanting to ensure that your acts of worship are complete
Right.
and sincere, free from any doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
It's such a human thing.
It is.
Have our minds wander.
It is.
And it's nice that there's guidance for that.
Yeah, and it reminds us that our connection with the divine is precious, and we're always striving to make those prayers as perfect as we can within those human limitations.
Right. And speaking of human limitations,
Oh.
there's a story in the Muwatta about a man who got so distracted by the beauty of his date palms during prayer
Oh, no.
that he wasn't sure if he'd prayed properly.
Oh, wow.
And out of concern, he offered his entire garden as charity.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a humorous anecdote,
It is.
but it highlights that deep piety, that generosity
Yeah.
that's encouraged in Islam. Even in moments of uncertainty,
Yeah.
the inclination is towards giving and seeking God's pleasure.
It's a beautiful reminder that
Yeah.
actions often speak louder than words.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the physical aspects of prayer.
Right.
The Muwatta gets into the specifics about posture, like the proper placement of your hands during prostration.
Yeah, it reinforces that idea that every element of prayer, internal and external, contributes to this holistic act of worship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one last story about prayer before we move on.
Okay.
The Muwatta describes this incident where the prophet arrived during a congregational prayer, and it was being led by Abu Bakr, a close companion.
Right.
And Abu Bakr immediately stepped back
Oh, wow.
to allow the prophet to lead.
That's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
It illustrates the humility and the reverence towards the prophet
Yes.
that characterized the early Muslim community.
Yeah, and the respect for his leadership and spiritual authority.
Exactly.
Right.
It's a subtle but powerful example
Was.
of the etiquette and those social dynamics at
Yeah.
play when a community gathers for prayer. Okay, so we've explored the importance of purity. We've talked about the centrality of prayer. Now let's shift our focus to another pillar of Islam fasting,
Okay.
particularly during the month of Ramadan.
Right. Fasting is such a profound act of worship,
It is.
involving abstinence from food and drink from dawn until dusk.
Right.
It's a time for spiritual reflection, intensified devotion, drawing closer to God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Muwatta addresses some interesting questions that might come up during fasting. For instance, is intimacy permissible for a fasting person?
Right.
Like, what are the boundaries there?
Well, the Muwatta, drawing from a Hadith,
Yeah.
mentions that the Prophet kissed his wives
Okay.
while fasting.
Okay.
So it indicates that certain forms of intimacy are permissible.
Okay.
Showing that fasting doesn't require complete physical detachment from one's spouse.
It's recognizing that intimacy is a natural part of marriage.
Exactly.
And fasting doesn't negate that.
Right.
What if someone accidentally breaks the fast?
Oh.
What guidance does the Muwatta offer?
So the concept of kafara
Okay.
comes into play here, which essentially means making amends for breaking the fast.
Okay.
This could involve acts of charity or additional fasting.
Okay.
And there's actually a really heartwarming story in the Muwatta about a man who wasn't able to perform
Okay.
the prescribed kafara for breaking his fast. And the Prophet, known for his compassion, he just simply gave him dates to eat instead.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It highlights the flexibility
Yeah.
and the understanding embedded in Islamic law, especially when we consider an individual's circumstances and limitations.
It shows that Islam prioritizes compassion
Yes.
and practicality over rigid adherence to rules,
Yeah, okay.
especially when it comes to sincere repentance.
Right.
Now, besides making amends for breaking a fast, the Muwatta emphasizes the importance of making up any missed fasts.
Yes.
Preferably consecutively, according to Imam Malik. Right. It's a reminder of the importance of fulfilling those religious obligations to the best of our ability.
Right.
And making up for any shortcomings in our worship.
It's acknowledging that even if we slip up, we have that opportunity
Yes.
to make things right.
Exactly.
And beyond the physical act of fasting, there's this beautiful hadith that speaks to the spiritual benefits. It says that the breath of a fasting person is more fragrant to God than musk.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
It emphasizes that transformative power of fasting, purifying us not just physically,
Right.
but also spiritually and morally.
Yes. It cultivates those virtues like patience, gratitude, and empathy.
It's like saying that fasting elevates our inner state to something that's more pleasing to God
Yes.
than even the most beautiful fragrance.
Exactly.
All right, so we've explored purity, we've talked about prayer and fasting. Now let's venture into another pillar of Islam, Hajj,
Okay.
the pilgrimage to Mecca.
Hajj is a transformative journey undertaken by millions of Muslims each year.
It is.
It's a series of rituals performed in and around Mecca, commemorating the Prophet Abraham's submission to God
Right.
and symbolizing the unity of the Muslim community.
It's a beautiful act.
It is.
While the Muwatta doesn't cover every single detail of Hajj, it does offer some specific insights, according to Imam Malik.
Okay.
For example, he highlights the different types of Hajj
Okay.
and focuses on Hajj al-Ifrad,
Right.
which is performing Hajj only
Okay.
without combining it with Umrah.
Right.
What's interesting is that this was the type of Hajj
Whoa.
that was performed by the Prophet himself,
Oh, wow.
setting a precedent for future generations.
Yeah.
It's like saying, if it was good enough for the Prophet, it's good enough for us.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, even in the context of a major pillar like Hajj,
Right.
the Muwatta dives into specifics, like what you can wear during the pilgrimage.
Oh, okay.
You can wear garments that were previously perfumed as long as that scent has faded, but clothes dyed with saffron are a no-go.
Interesting.
These rulings highlight that meticulous attention
Yeah.
to maintaining that state of ritual purity
Right.
and simplicity.
Yeah.
During Hajj, it's about shedding outward adornments and focusing on that inner journey.
Yes.
And speaking of ritual purity,
Okay.
the Muwatta addresses the proper way to enter Ihram,
Okay.
which is the state of spiritual sanctity required for Hajj. Umar ibn al-Khattab, a prominent companion of the Prophet,
Okay.
advised the people of Mecca
Okay.
to enter Ihram upon seeing the new moon.
So this instruction ensured uniformity.
Yes.
And it helped everyone embark on that pilgrimage together in a synchronized manner.
Right.
It was about fostering that sense of communal unity
Yes.
from the very beginning.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And speaking of unity,
Yeah.
the Muwatta even provides the exact wording of the Talbiyah,
Oh, wow.
the invocation recited during Hajj. And it says, I am at your service. O Allah, I am at your service. I am at your service. You have no partner. I am at your service. Praise and blessing belong to you and the kingdom. You have no partner.
Wow, that's so powerful.
The repetition in the Talbiyah really reinforces the pilgrim's complete surrender
Yes.
and devotion to God, leaving no room for any other allegiance.
It's a powerful declaration of faith and obedience.
It's like saying, I'm here for you and you alone.
Exactly.
And amidst all these rituals,
Yeah.
the Muwatta doesn't forget about compassion and practicality.
Right.
There's a story about a woman who started menstruating during Hajj,
Okay.
and the Prophet ruled that she could depart if she had already performed the Tawaf al-Ifada, which is the circumambulation of the Kaaba.
Right.
It demonstrates that sensitivity towards women's physical needs
Yeah.
and the flexibility within Islamic law
Yeah.
to accommodate these circumstances.
It's not about placing hardship or burden
Right.
on people.
It's a reminder that Islamic teachings aim to be comprehensive and compassionate.
Yes.
Okay, one last detail about Hajj
Okay.
from the Muwatta before we move on. It mentions that shortening the hair is permissible during Hajj,
Okay.
with the Prophet invoking blessings on those who do so.
Okay, so this act symbolizes humility and detachment from worldly concerns, aligning with the overall spirit of Hajj.
Yes.
It's about shedding our ego
Yes.
and focusing on that connection with the divine.
It's fascinating how even in something as major as Hajj, the Muwatta provides such specific guidance,
Yeah.
reflecting that level of detail and practicality found in Imam Malik's teachings.
It's a testament to the depth and the richness of Islamic jurisprudence
Yes.
and its ability to address a wide range of situations with clarity and compassion.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground,
Right.
from the importance of purity to the nuances of prayer and fasting, and we even ventured into that realm of Hajj.
Yeah.
But the Muwatta's wisdom doesn't stop there.
Oh, no.
It also delves into the world of financial dealings and business transactions,
Yeah.
offering some surprising insights into ethical conduct and fairness in the marketplace. Ready to dive into that?
Absolutely. Let's explore how Islamic teachings provide a framework
Okay.
for conducting business in a way that benefits both individuals and society as a whole.
Okay. So we've kind of explored those spiritual foundations of Islam.
Right.
Purification, prayer, fasting,
Yeah.
Hajj.
Yeah.
But Islam isn't just about personal piety. It's about creating a just and equitable society.
Exactly.
And that's where the Muwatta's teachings on financial dealings become really fascinating.
It's amazing how it gets into like the nitty-gritty of
Yeah.
business transactions.
Right.
And it offers guidance that's both ethically grounded and incredibly practical. It's like having a manual for how to conduct business
Yeah.
in a way that benefits everyone involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a core principle that really stands out is the prohibition of riba,
Right.
which is interest.
Yeah.
And this isn't just some random rule.
Right.
It has profound implications for how we think about wealth and transactions.
Absolutely. The idea is to prevent exploitation
Okay.
and to ensure that financial dealings are based on like genuine partnerships and shared risk rather than one party profiting unfairly at the expense of another.
Right. It's about fostering that cooperation.
Yes.
Mutual benefit. So if interest is off the table, then what are the alternatives?
Right.
How does the Muwatta guide us toward those ethical financial practices?
Well, it gets into some really fascinating specifics.
Okay.
For instance, selling unripe fruit is strictly prohibited.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're selling something that hasn't reached its full value or potential.
It's like promising something that you can't deliver.
Right, exactly.
It's about transparency
Yeah.
and ensuring that goods are traded at their fair value,
Right.
not based on speculation or potential future gains, right?
And this principle extends to other areas as well.
Okay.
The Muwatta has specific rules regarding the exchange of gold for silver.
Oh, interesting. Tell me about those.
So the key here is immediacy.
Okay.
The exchange has to happen on the spot.
Okay.
There's no delay in payment. And this prevents any kind of speculation or uncertainty that could lead to one party being disadvantaged.
So it's ensuring that clear, equitable exchange
Yes.
right then and there. It kind of reminds me of how some cultures still practice bartering,
Oh, yeah.
trading goods directly for other goods. Does the Muwatta address that at all?
It does address bartering,
Okay.
especially when it comes to food items.
Okay.
Again, there are guidelines to ensure fairness, especially when we're dealing with essential commodities that people depend on for their livelihood.
Right. It all circles back to that core principle of ethical conduct in all our dealings. But beyond those specific transactions.
Does the Muwatta address any broader economic principles
And yes,
that promote fairness and prevent exploitation?
it does. Hoarding and price manipulation are strictly forbidden.
Okay.
Yeah. It's about ensuring that markets function in a way that benefits the entire community.
Right.
Not just a select few who seek to profit from scarcity or desperation.
That's incredibly relevant today,
It is.
especially with concerns about inflation and supply chain disruptions.
Yeah, it shows how Islamic teachings were really ahead of their time in recognizing the need for economic justice and preventing practices that could harm those vulnerable populations.
To bring all of this to life, there's a story in the Muwatta about a man who was just so meticulous about fairness, even in like the smallest of transactions. He was buying food and he questioned a receipt
Oh, wow.
that included this tiny fractional amount,
Okay.
something that most of us would probably just overlook.
Yeah.
It's a reminder to be mindful and uphold those ethical principles in all our dealings, no matter how small they may seem.
Right. It's about cultivating that habit of integrity and fairness
Yeah.
in everything we do.
So we've covered the prohibition of interest,
Right.
those specific guidelines for various transactions, and the condemnation of those harmful economic practices like hoarding.
Yeah.
But there's another crucial aspect of financial dealings that the Muwatta tackles head on,
Okay.
and that's inheritance.
Inheritance can be a sensitive topic,
It is.
but it's essential to have a system
Right.
that ensures fairness and prevents disputes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Muwatta lays out this detailed system of inheritance in Islam,
Right.
aiming to distribute wealth fairly among family members according to specific guidelines.
It's not a free-for-all where anyone can claim whatever they want.
Right.
There are fixed shares allocated to specific relatives,
Okay.
like spouses, parents, and children.
Makes sense. It prevents those conflicts
Right.
and ensures that those who are entitled to a share receive their due.
Exactly.
But I imagine there are some unique aspects to Islamic inheritance that might not be obvious at first glance.
Right. For example, the Muwatta distinguishes between paternal and maternal relatives regarding inheritance rights.
Okay.
And there are situations where certain relatives might be excluded from inheritance altogether.
Wow. So it sounds like a nuanced system.
It is.
That really takes into account the complexities of family relationships and circumstances.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting that the Muwatta even addresses the sensitive issue of inheritance for children born out of wedlock.
Right.
This is an area where cultures often have very different approaches.
Yeah.
What's Imam Malik's perspective on this?
So the Muwatta emphasizes that the mother in such a situation has a clear right to inheritance while the biological father is excluded.
Okay.
And this underscores the importance of protecting the rights and well-being of both the mother and the child.
It's a reminder that Islamic teachings aim to be both just and compassionate, even in situations that might be considered socially taboo.
Right. It's about finding solutions that uphold ethical principles while also considering the realities of human relationships.
It's fascinating how the Muwatta seamlessly weaves together
the
spiritual and the practical, offering guidance on everything from those personal acts of worship to complex financial matters.
Yeah. It's a testament to the holistic nature of Islam, aiming to create a just and compassionate society in all aspects of life.
And what's really remarkable is that even though this was compiled centuries ago, the teachings on financial ethics and social responsibility are incredibly relevant in today's world.
It's like these principles of Islam are timeless.
They are.
And offer guidance for navigating the challenges that we face, no matter what era we live in.
Yeah.
But the Muwatta doesn't stop there.
It also delves into that realm of social interactions.
Right.
And it offers insights into how we can build stronger, more ethical relationships with one another. Ready to explore that dimension.
Absolutely. Let's uncover that wisdom that the Muwatta offers on fostering kindness, respect, and understanding in our interactions with others.
Welcome back. We've covered so much in our exploration of the Muwatta.
We have.
We went from the importance of purity and prayer to the ethics of financial dealings. But there's one more area we need to touch on. And it's how we interact with each other.
Yeah.
How we build relationships.
Right.
How we conduct ourselves in society. What insights does the Muwatta offer in this realm?
Well, one of the things that really stands out is the emphasis on guarding our speech. Particularly when it comes to suspicion and gossip.
Right.
There's a hadith in the Muwatta that really drives this point home. It says, "Beware of suspicion. Suspicion is the most untrue speech. Do not spy and do not eavesdrop."
It's so relevant today.
It is.
Especially with social media and the constant flow of information.
Right.
It's so easy to get caught up in those rumors and that negativity. The Muwatta reminds us to be mindful of what we say and to foster trust rather than suspicion.
Right. It's about recognizing the power of our words and using them to build bridges rather than walls.
And this emphasis on mindful communication extends to specific social interactions as well.
It does. For instance, it highlights the importance of inclusivity in conversations. There's a mention of the practice of two people not conversing privately in the presence of a third. Abdullah ibn Umar, a companion of the Prophet, was known for adhering to this, always ensuring that everyone present felt included.
That's such a great reminder. It is to be considerate of others. Even in those casual interactions. It's about creating a space where everyone feels respected and valued.
And there's another social principle highlighted in the Muwatta that might seem counterintuitive at first. It emphasizes the virtue of self-reliance and discourages begging.
Now that's interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. Isn't charity a big part of Islam?
It absolutely is. But the Muwatta reminds us that true dignity lies in striving to provide for oneself rather than relying on the charity of others. There's a powerful hadith that says, "To take your rope and gather firewood on your back is better for you than that you come to a man and ask him, and then he either gives something to you or refuses."
So it's about empowering individuals
Yes.
to contribute to society and take ownership of their own livelihoods.
Exactly. It's not about shaming those in need, but it's about encouraging that spirit of self-sufficiency and recognizing that inherent dignity of work.
Of course, helping those who are genuinely struggling is a fundamental principle in Islam.
Yes.
But the Muwatta seems to encourage us to find that balance between giving and encouraging that personal responsibility.
It is about finding that balance.
It's amazing how the Muwatta weaves together these seemingly disparate aspects of life.
It is.
From the intricacies of ritual purification to the ethics of financial dealings and even those subtleties of social interactions.
Yeah, it's a testament to the holistic nature of Islam, aiming to guide us towards a life that's both spiritually grounded and socially responsible.
It's recognizing that our actions,
yes,
both big and small, have an impact on ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly.
The Muwatta offers a framework for living a life that's not just about personal piety, but about building that just and compassionate society.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Muwatta, what's the key takeaway you hope our listeners will remember?
I think it's the enduring relevance of Imam Malik's teachings. His insights on ethical conduct, financial responsibility, social harmony are as valuable today as they were centuries ago.
Yeah.
He reminds us that Islam is not just a set of rituals,
Right.
but a way of life, a path towards personal growth and social transformation.
Beautifully said. And I hope that this deep dive has sparked a curiosity
Me too.
in you, our listener, to explore the Muwatta further
And
discover for yourself those hidden gems.
there's so much wisdom waiting to be uncovered. And I encourage you to continue on this journey of learning and discovery.
Thanks for joining us on this fascinating exploration
Yeah, this was great.
of Imam Malik's Muwatta. We hope you gain some valuable insights and a deeper appreciation for that richness and relevance of Islamic teachings.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep seeking knowledge, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.